A reality show producer and his crew are somehow transported to the far future. They then arrive in the year 2121 AD, where women are the rulers of society. A man wearing a red cap shows a woman around his cabin in the forest. The man, Michael, smooth talks the woman Maria and pivots to flattering Maria as the potential star of the new reality show he's producing. They go back inside and Michael talks about John and Susan, who are part of his team and argue all the time. He proceeds to teach Maria how to play pool in a suggestive manner until John and Susan arrive. Michael introduces Susan as his executive producer and John as his computer guy handling social media duties. The two greet Maria, whose last name is Putin, and realize why Michael likes her very much. Later, John takes pictures of Michael and Maria, then focuses on shooting Maria solo. Susan tries to brief Michael on logistics problems, but he waves it off, inviting the group to play pool instead. However, Michael leaves his crew to spend time with Maria upstairs, and Susan reminds him of his trip to Vegas the next day. That night, Michael admires Maria modeling in various skimpy dresses and asks her to put on the lingerie he bought. When Maria laments that Michael seems to only care about sleeping with her, he sort of pops the question on her and gives her a ring. Maria is overjoyed, changes into her lingerie, and proceeds to get intimate with Michael. The next day, Michael, Maria, John, and Susan are driving through the extraterrestrial highway when they pass through what looks like a portal. Their Land Rover malfunctions and veers off the road into the dirt, where Michael starts complaining loudly. John points out they're in Area 51, while Susan comes up with ideas to help them relax. They start arguing, and Michael yells at them in frustration while trying to fix the car. Maria tries to calm Michael down in vain, but he quickly apologizes for his outburst and makes grand promises about his upcoming show. Thinking he got the Land Rover fixed, Michael tells the others to get in so they can leave, but the car still won't start. Michael snaps at Maria to stop fidgeting with her ring, and she stows it away. Susan tries to pinpoint their location, but Google Maps doesn't work, leading Michael to step out of the car and yell for help. As the rest of the group gets out of the Rover, a loud sound wave knocks them back. John explains that Area 51 is a secret government facility conducting UFO experiments, which might explain the weirdness they're experiencing. He also advises that they should just surrender peacefully if security personnel find them. Michael suddenly spots a blinking device lying in the dirt, and they go over to inspect it. John identifies it as a Foo Fighter, a multi-directional anti-gravity proton ball, first seen during World War II. John tries talking to the device, but there's no response, and Michael persuades the others to leave the area. Michael leads the others through the scorching desert as they complain about various things. Later on, Maria stumbles onto a roach-infested dung heap, much to her disgust. John observes that other than roaches, no other animals or insects seem to be hovering around the fresh dung or even the surrounding area at all. Suddenly, a winged creature hits Michael on the forehead. Cursing in pain, he tells Maria to pull out whatever it is that's stuck in his head. Maria pulls it out and finds it weird that there's no bleeding. Michael lashes out at Maria, calling her a stupid immigrant, but she replies that they're all immigrants in America. Maria doubts her affection for Michael and storms off. Susan spots and calls out to a man wearing a metal hat, thinking he could help, but the man runs away. Susan goes after him, and the rest follow her through the rock formations. She loses sight of the strange man, but he suddenly appears behind her, looking filthy. Susan changes her mind about asking for help and runs off, only to find herself at the edge of a steep rock face. Another man in a metal hat shows up and advances on Susan menacingly. She tries to seduce the two men with her assets, but they lose interest and run off. Michael and the others find Susan, and John notes how the strange guys don't seem keen on plastics. Later, the group gets surrounded by four women in strange warrior-like clothing who appear interested in Maria. Michael keeps trying to block Maria from view, but one of the warriors pushes him aside, calling him disgusting. Furious, Michael attempts to hit back, but the warrior woman throws him down and points a sword toward John. John immediately surrenders and asks to be taken to the warrior's leader, so the woman leads the way. Afterward, Michael awakens inside a metal cage with John. He demands the warrior guarding them to let them out, to no avail. A woman named Zane arrives and reveals that it is the year 2121 AD. Zane says that Michael, John, and the other prisoners are now designated as selective breeding combatants, or SBCs, who will fight each other until one man remains. That man, deemed the strongest, will then help produce offspring to maintain the female population. At one prisoner's query, Zane states that the loser will either be castrated, consigned to lifelong domestic servitude, or butchered. When Michael is selected as one of the first to fight, he tries trading Maria for his freedom, but Zane says they have already claimed her. Countering John's protests, Michael says it's merely a sucker play until they find another bargaining chip. Meanwhile, Maria discovers through various news clippings how World War III and Russia's invasion of the USA, among other things, transformed the world. Just then, a voice calling herself Oriana informs Maria of her companion's situations. While Susan is well cared for, Michael and John are imprisoned. Oriana retells significant historical events starting with with a failed attempt to fight climate change. A third world war was the cause, wiping out half of the population and climate change decimating a good chunk of the rest. Oriana cites a long list of male world leaders like Trump and Putin as the culprits behind the eventual apocalypse. So, the women took over leadership and eventually became the dominant population on Earth. Then, Oriana shows herself before Maria, who admires her beauty. Later, Oriana shows Maria and Susan around the village, where women are free to explore their potential. She expressed contempt for men who are exiled from communities. Oriana also mentions that there are pockets of females like them all over the land, and they will have a summit soon. She explains that certain female villagers work for the privilege of mersing, a term for reproduction. Oriana then mentions that Michael will participate in the mersing selection process. To Maria's surprise, Susan mentions Michael's bloodless incident with a bat, and Oriana attributes it to the bat's radioactivity. She further explains that it was sent by their mortal enemy Eden, keeper of the bats. Later, Maria finds John in the cage and looks for Michael. John explains that Michael will compete for the right to merce, while Maria affirms with John that they've somehow traveled forward in time. John points out that it makes Maria 130 years old, to her delighted amusement. Eventually, Michael is pushed onto a fighting area with another prisoner, while Maria and Oriana watch. Somewhat intimidated, Michael distracts his opponent and hits him in the crotch, leaving him the winner. Michael loudly celebrates his victory, while Maria and Oriana seem less pleased. Afterward, Michael is shoved into a tent with a woman lying down inside. Meanwhile, Oriana shows Maria their nursery tent, where a pregnant man is sitting. Oriana reveals that they insert a uterus into the suitable candidate, and that men consider it an honor despite the pain. Back in the tent, Michael enjoys his time making love to the woman. In the nursery tent, Oriana takes pride in women being Earth's caretakers when Maria asks what happens to the boy babies. Oriana says that boys are separated from girls at birth and eventually trained to be obedient and submissive to women their whole life. Maria mentions that men and women are equal in her time, but Oriana is skeptical. After finishing their mersing activity, Michael attempts to touch the woman, but she slaps his hand away and leaves the tent. An angry Michael protests the treatment as a guard pushes him back down. Meanwhile, Susan asks Oriana why they subject males to pregnancy, and Oriana cites the superiority of females and the preciousness of their bodies. When Oriana and Maria walk away, Susan is abducted by a man in a metal hat. More men turn up at the village entrance as the women sound the alarm on the intruders. As Michael escapes the tent, the intruders engage the women in battle. One female warrior stabs a man through the chest, but another man knocks her out. Susan is pinned down by her attacker, but she tries to grab his weapon. Michael finds John and helps him escape the cage along with the other prisoners. The women put up a good fight, but the intruders overpower them one by one. The men manage to abduct one of the women and run off. Susan tries to stab her attacker with his own dagger, but the man snatches it from her and stabs her instead. A man in a tattered top finds Oriana, but she fends him off with a glowing crystal. The man hesitates before running away. The villagers carry Susan and the other injured women to treatment, but Susan doesn't make it. Oriana explains how they couldn't save Susan to a mournful Maria. Elsewhere, Michael joins the intruders who have set up a temporary camp and asks the guy in a tattered top about his necklace. The man Eden says Oriana gave it to him, made from her own hair back when they meant something to each other. Michael expresses his desire to take over the village, but the man rebuffs such plans. Knowing Michael and John are from the past, he assumes they like the landscape, and Michael confirms he likes the lawlessness and abundance of women. Back in the female village, Oriana watches Maria eat a slice of meat called Drac. At the men's camp, Eden brings a woman to Michael and John. John refuses to harm the woman, but Michael viciously takes advantage of the opportunity and drags the woman away. In the village, Oriana comforts a grieving Maria and leads her to their crystal source of energy. Meanwhile, John meets an AI robot named Herbert from the year 2025, with an IQ of 1,600, but whose race was wiped out by the nuclear disaster. Michael finds John and retrieves a glowing crystal John was hiding for him. Michael tells John to figure out how it works to get back at Oriana and take over the female village. Somewhere in the village, Oriana finds Maria deep in thought and asks her if she's ever been with a woman before. Maria says no, but admits she's always been curious, so Oriana leads her away to a private tent. There, the two women kiss and get intimate with each other. The next day, Michael tracks down and confronts Maria inside the village. Maria is frustrated about Susan's death and Michael's savagery, saying she just wants to go home to their own time. Michael feels differently and gets physical when Maria calls him mad. He then forcefully takes Maria away. Elsewhere, Herbert teaches John how to use the crystal as a projectile weapon. Later, Michael brings Maria to Eden's camp, where he forces her to dance with a huge man. John finds it disturbing, including Michael's association with Eden's men. John attempts to rescue Maria, but Michael tells one of the men to take John away. Eden shows up and orders his minion to bring Maria to his tent. Maria escapes the camp with John afterward, and they beat up a guard before setting off. They come across Herbert, who they ask for help to return to the past and prevent the apocalypse from happening. Herbert agrees to help and advises them to wait for the solar eclipse's vortex to escape back through the time portal. He adds that they'll need to fit crystals into their vehicle's engine, and Maria beckons the two to follow her. As the trio treks through the desert, one of the men in metal hats tails them. Meanwhile, Michael uses the crystal weapon to force one of the abducted villagers, Athena, to reveal where the rest of the crystals are. She tells Michael they're in a pyramid cave next to the village just as Eden arrives. Eden calmly tells Michael that there might be a way to find a balance between men and women, but Michael brushes him off. In the desert, Herbert spots two mutants following them, and he carries a tired Maria on his back. They stop for a bit as Herbert figures out where the Land Rover might be, soon detecting that it's just beyond the rocks ahead. They find the car, but John is unable to find the keys. Herbert fixes up the engine, and the car starts, but the mutants catch up to them. Herbert subdues them with ease, pushing one aside and choking out the other. The robot then points John and Maria southeast to the village and instructs them to find 7 crystals for the car. The two thank Herbert, who bids them goodbye and goes his own way. Before they can leave, a third mutant suddenly grabs Maria through the window, but John knocks the man out with a punch. Maria kisses John on the cheek, and they drive off to the village. Meanwhile, Michael makes it to the pyramid cave and pockets several large crystals. At the same time, John and Maria come across a meditating Ariana, who welcomes Maria back. Maria tells Ariana that Michael kidnapped her, but he didn't let her go, and John helped her escape. At Ariana's prompting, John admits how the year 2121 frightens him, but believes men can still make the world a better place for women. John explains their plan to return to the past via the eclipse and the crystals, but Ariana says no man has ever set foot in the cave. However, she makes an exception for John. Maria and John get to the crystal cave, but Michael takes Maria hostage and tells John to come along. Michael finds and gets into the Land Rover but sees John has the keys. The two get into a scuffle, but Michael quickly subdues John with 2 blasts from a crystal. Just then, Ariana shows up and blasts Michael with her crystal, leaving him huffing in the dirt. As Maria helps John up, Michael gets pinned down by Eden's men before he can escape. Eden thanks Michael for teaching them that love between men and women still exists, and Michael can only yell in anger. Later on, Eden and his men enter the village in peace, telling Ariana that he's ending their conflict and wishing to create harmony once more. The men and women happily reconcile, and Maria sadly bids Ariana goodbye as John reminds her about the coming eclipse. John and Maria leave in the Land Rover, stopping for a bit to equip the engine with 7 crystals. Afterward, John accelerates the car just as the eclipse happens, and they go through a trippy time vortex. Back in the present, 2 police officers find the parked Rover with John and Maria unconscious inside. The police wake the two up, and John tells them about Michael and Susan's demise, explaining how they traveled to 2121 AD, where women rule the world. As the officers call the incident in, Maria finds the ring Michael gave her, smashes it on the car door, and kisses John.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.